Close your eyes, and imagine yourself lying at the edge of a quiet river. The water moves steadily, whispering in soft ripples. It flows past smooth stones, around bends, over hidden roots. If you stay here long enough, you might feel as if the river is not simply moving, but breathing with you. Its rhythm, steady and unhurried, feels like the rhythm of your own chest rising and falling. This is how we often sense time. A dependable current. A flow that carries everything forward. Seconds, minutes, hours, all drifting past like leaves floating downstream. You wake, you move through your day, you rest, and then the cycle begins again. Time, like the river, seems constant. Reliable. Something you can measure, something you can trust. But this, you will see, is only part of the story. For rivers are not always calm. They rush, they meander, they split into many streams, and sometimes they nearly stand still in wide, mirror-like pools. And time, though it feels like a metronome ticking evenly in the background, can bend, stretch, and ripple in ways both strange and profound. Imagine dipping your hand into that river. You swirl the water and feel resistance, the drag of flow around your skin. That same resistance exists in the flow of time. The great physicist Albert Einstein once revealed to the world that time is not a rigid grid, but part of a fabric, something woven together with space itself. He called it spacetime. And like any fabric, it can stretch. It can fold. It can ripple when disturbed. Your life, then, is not simply lived in time. You live within this woven fabric, carried along by its shifting currents. And depending on how you move through the cosmos, your experience of time itself can change. Think for a moment of an astronaut. High above Earth, circling our planet at extraordinary speed. To that astronaut, time flows just a little differently than it does for you on the ground. Their clock ticks at a slightly altered rhythm. Their seconds do not perfectly match yours. To us, it is imperceptible, fractions of a second. Yet over months, years, decades, these tiny differences grow. They accumulate. And suddenly, we realize that two people who shared a single moment no longer share the same length of time. This is called time dilation. It is not fiction, not imagination, but a truth written into the mathematics of the universe. Time is not universal, it is relative. But let us return to the river. Picture again its flow. If you wade in at the center, where the water moves swiftly, you are carried faster, swept ahead. But if you linger at the edges, in the shallow pools, you remain almost still. To an observer on the shore, both you and the leaf caught midstream are in the same river, yet your journeys unfold at different rhythms. So it is with time. Depending on speed, on gravity, on your path through spacetime, your journey may drift ahead or linger behind. This idea may seem dizzying. And yet, there is a strange comfort in it. Because if time is a river, then you are not a prisoner bound to its banks, but a traveler, carried by its currents. Sometimes the flow feels fast, childhood summers that vanish in a blink, golden hours that slip away before you can grasp them. Sometimes it feels unbearably slow, a sleepless night, a waiting room, a stretch of longing where each minute seems to resist the pull of the current. But both the rushing and the stillness are part of the same river. And so too, in the cosmos, speed and gravity shape the rhythm of time itself. Near a massive planet, where gravity tugs at the very fabric of spacetime, time slows down. Near the event horizon of a black hole, time nearly halts. What to you might be an eternal pause is, to another far away, the steady continuation of years. It is as though the universe whispers, there is no single clock for all of us. Each traveler carries their own measure of time, their own private rhythm of the river. Pause now, and take a breath. Feel the rise and fall, the pulse of your body. This, too, is a kind of clock. Every heartbeat a tick. Every breath a gentle metronome. And yet even within your body, time feels different. A joyful hour passes quickly, a painful hour stretches endlessly. Your brain itself becomes an artist, bending and stretching your perception of time. Children know this especially well. For them, a year feels enormous, like a lifetime of seasons. For adults, years slip past swiftly, blending into one another like waves. This is not the physics of spacetime but the poetry of perception. Still, it echoes the deeper truth: time is never truly fixed. Einstein once wrote that people like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion. The river does not begin or end. It simply flows. And you, sitting quietly at its edge, are part of that flow. And so the first step in this journey is simply to let go of the idea of time as rigid, as absolute. Instead, imagine it alive, pliable, shifting. A river that can rush or linger. A fabric that can stretch or fold. A song that changes tempo depending on where you stand. If you could hear the universe breathe, perhaps it would sound like this, not one steady beat, but many rhythms woven together. Your rhythm. My rhythm. The astronaut's rhythm. The rhythm of distant stars. You may wonder, if time can bend, then what does it mean to age? To live? To remember? If seconds do not pass equally for all, then how do we measure a life? These are questions the river invites us to carry further. For now, rest with the image. You by the water. The current flowing, soft, unstoppable, yet never quite the same. The leaves drift, the stones shift, the surface shimmers. Beneath it all, something deeper is happening. And the journey has only just begun. You close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your eyelids, a soft light begins to glow. It is not the light of a lamp, nor the sunlight of day, but something quieter, more distant, the light of stars drifting far across the fabric of space. You feel yourself floating, not hurried, not pressed by the weight of clocks or schedules, but simply present, suspended in a cosmos that breathes with you. Einstein once described time not as something fixed, not as the steady ticking of a great cosmic metronome, but as something pliable, a dimension that can stretch and bend, just like space itself. Tonight, you take your first gentle step into his vision. You imagine yourself drifting with his thoughts, as though his mind is a river and you are carried along its current. The stars around you shimmer, not fixed in a rigid dome but suspended in something deeper, something that feels alive. You realize that space is not emptiness. It is not a hollow void. Instead, it is a fabric, invisible, soft, yet powerful enough to cradle entire galaxies. You can almost feel its texture beneath your fingertips, as though the universe is a vast woven cloth, and you are resting lightly upon its threads. In this fabric, time is no longer separate. Time is not a straight line you must walk. Instead, it is woven into space itself, forming what Einstein called spacetime. Each star, each planet, each drifting particle of dust, rests upon this fabric, bending it ever so slightly with its presence. The more massive the object, the deeper the curve it creates. You picture a great star pressing down upon this fabric, its weight forming a valley in spacetime. Around it, smaller objects move, not because they are pulled by some invisible string, but because they follow the natural curves of this valley. This is gravity, not a force that reaches out like a hand, but the shape of space itself guiding the flow of motion. As you breathe, you imagine yourself floating near such a star. You feel the slope beneath you, curving downward, gentle yet irresistible. You drift along its arc, gliding not through emptiness but upon the folds of spacetime itself. The thought calms you. Gravity is no longer a chain that binds, but a pathway that guides, a river carved into the very fabric of reality. And here, time begins to show its secrets. Close to the star, time slows. A clock ticking near its surface will tick more slowly than a clock far away, out in the empty stretches of space. This is not illusion, not a trick of perspective, but reality itself. Time stretches differently, depending on where you stand, depending on the depth of the spacetime fabric beneath your feet. You imagine two travelers. One remains far from the star, where space is nearly flat and time flows swiftly. The other drifts closer, into the curved valley of spacetime, where time itself stretches and slows. When they meet again, they will find that their clocks no longer agree. One has aged more than the other. Time, it seems, is not universal. It is personal, shaped by the paths we take through the fabric of the cosmos. This realization settles softly in your mind. Time is not a rigid chain pulling you forward. It is not the same for everyone, everywhere. It bends, it sways, it stretches. And in this flexibility, there is a strange kind of freedom. You are not bound to the tick of a clock. You are woven into a living fabric, where each step you take through space also becomes a step through time. As you drift deeper into this thought, the stars around you seem to pulse with memory. Each one is a witness to ages beyond counting. Light leaves their surfaces and travels across space, carrying with it stories of long ago. When you look at the night sky, you are never seeing the stars as they are, but as they were, moments, years, even millions of years in the past. The light is old, and yet here it is, brushing against your eyes, making you part of its journey. Time, you realize, is not simply something that passes. It is something that lingers, something that threads moments together across unimaginable distances. The starlight that touches you tonight began its path long before you were born. And now, in this quiet moment, it has arrived. You and the star are joined, across gulfs of time and space, by the fragile, enduring thread of light. Einstein's thought begins to whisper again. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion. At first, this feels unsettling. How can the flow of time be an illusion? But as you breathe, you sense its gentleness. Past, present, and future may not be separate, but woven together in a single whole, like threads of a tapestry that only appear separate when seen too closely. Step back, and they form a pattern. Step back further, and they form a picture. In the vast fabric of spacetime, every moment exists. Every heartbeat, every sunrise, every drifting star, is stitched into the weave. The present is not a razor's edge slicing away the past and reaching toward the future. It is a place where many threads meet, where your awareness touches one strand of a vast design. And so you float here, within Einstein's vision, breathing slowly, drifting across the cosmic fabric. You feel time not as a pressure, not as a relentless push forward, but as a sea in which you drift. Waves of memory, waves of possibility, rise and fall around you. You are carried, not hurried. You are held, not lost. The stars dim slightly, and you find yourself imagining Earth, your home, nestled deep in this fabric. You see the planet cradled in its own gentle curve of spacetime, moving endlessly around the sun. You see the sun itself bowed into the deeper curve of the Milky Way, and the galaxy adrift in yet wider swells of spacetime. Everything is connected, everything resting on this fabric that stretches beyond sight. You smile, or perhaps only feel the soft impulse of a smile, at the thought that you are part of this too. Your steps, your breaths, your very presence leave their own faint trace upon spacetime. The universe bends, ever so slightly, to hold you. The fabric is vast, beyond comprehension, yet it is intimate as well. You feel it beneath you now, like a soft bed that does not end, like a woven sea that carries every galaxy, every atom, every thought. And somewhere within it, time moves differently for each, yet all remain part of the same whole. You breathe again, long and slow. You are floating, you are held, you are woven. And as your thoughts begin to settle into the gentle rhythm of the cosmos, a new question rises, soft and unresolved. If time is not fixed, if it bends and stretches with the fabric of the universe, then what happens at the very edges of that fabric, where gravity grows strongest, where light itself struggles to escape? You begin with a simple picture, two clocks. They are ordinary in appearance, round faces, slender hands, a soft ticking sound that feels almost like the beating of a heart. Yet though they are ordinary in design, their placement changes everything. The first clock rests on the surface of the Earth. It sits still, anchored in familiar gravity, its seconds slipping away in the rhythm you have always known. The second clock, however, is carried into the cosmos, lifted onto a vessel that sails through space at a speed beyond anything you have ever felt. At first, they tick together, as though nothing could separate them. 1 second here matches 1 second there. The two clocks seem loyal companions, like two flutes playing the same tune in perfect harmony. But as the traveling clock accelerates, a subtle divergence begins. Its ticking slows, not because it is broken, not because anything inside has changed, but because time itself has shifted around it. This is the gentle strangeness of special relativity. You imagine it not as a set of equations, but as a soft reshaping of reality, a bending of the unseen fabric in which all moments are woven. Time, which feels so steady in daily life, turns out to be pliable, like clay held in cosmic hands. Picture yourself gazing at the two clocks again. The one on Earth moves steadily, tick, tick, tick. The other, carried at great speed, drifts into a slower rhythm. You cannot hear it with your ears, but you can feel it in the imagination, one clock gently parting ways with the other. It is as though time itself sighs and loosens its grip, allowing the fast-moving clock to step aside, to drift out of sync with the stillness of home. And in this separation, a strange truth emerges, that speed does not simply move you through space, it reshapes your passage through time. You breathe slowly, letting this image settle. The quiet ticking becomes like a lullaby, a rhythm that carries you deeper into the mystery. Imagine yourself sitting beside the earthbound clock. You run your hand along its surface, cool and steady. This clock belongs to the everyday world, to the tempo of ordinary life. It marks the hours of sleep and waking, of meals and conversations, of the sun rising and setting across the horizon. Now, imagine lifting yourself into the ship that carries the traveling clock. The stars slide past as though they too have stretched and slowed, their light bending under the pressure of your speed. You glance at the clock, and though its hands still move, they do so with a hesitation, a reluctance, as if time is unwilling to let go of each passing second. To someone standing on Earth, your journey seems brief. Perhaps only a few years slip by on the ground. Yet for you, carried by velocity, the hours stretch differently. The faster you move, the more slowly time falls from your hands. You remain young while the earth ages. Friends and landscapes alter in your absence, while your own body lingers in an extended present. It is here, in this strange divergence, that the poetry of physics reveals itself. Time is not a single drumbeat, but many, each one tuned by motion, each one resonating differently depending on the path you take. You might think of two dancers. One spins in place, graceful and steady. The other spins across the stage, sweeping through great arcs. Their movements are both dance, but the rhythm they keep begins to part. The one who races outward carries a slower beat, stretched by the vast sweep of the performance. Or you might think of rivers. A stream moves gently along its bank, water gliding at an even pace. But a swift river, rushing down a steep incline, pulls time differently, stretching the sense of passage in its frothing current. These are only metaphors, of course. Yet they give shape to the invisible truth, that speed and time are inseparable, forever entwined in the cosmic weave. You close your eyes and picture the two clocks again. You see them suspended in a wide canvas of darkness. Their tick-tock becomes a contrast, one holding steady, one lingering behind. The silence between them grows, not in sound but in rhythm. And you begin to wonder what this means for you. For the human body that walks upon earth. For the heart that beats, the breath that flows, the memories that gather. If time itself bends and stretches, then the life you live is not bound to a single rhythm. You are carried by motion, by gravity, by the quiet choices of where you stand and where you travel. Suddenly, the steady tick of your own pulse feels different. Each heartbeat is a clock, marking your personal journey through time. And though you cannot yet ride a vessel at near-light speed, you can still feel the truth that time is not rigid. It is alive, responsive, delicate as a ripple across a pond. Perhaps you think of the astronauts who journey into orbit, circling the planet hundreds of times. For them, the divergence of time is small, milliseconds, fractions of seconds, yet it is real. They return to Earth ever so slightly younger than if they had remained upon the ground. A whisper of time dilation written into their bodies. And you imagine extending this voyage further. What if the ship carried you not just around Earth, but across galaxies? What if you traveled near the speed of light, where minutes for you would be centuries for those left behind? You might leave as a friend, a sibling, a child, and return to find generations folded into the past, the world altered beyond recognition. The thought is not frightening, but tender. It reminds you of how fragile and precious each shared moment is, how delicate the weaving of lives together in time. Now the two clocks fade again into focus. They are still ticking, one upon Earth, one rushing through the stars. Their difference is no longer unsettling. Instead, it becomes a song, two instruments in different tempos, yet both part of a larger harmony. You realize then that time does not divide us. It only reminds us that every journey, every motion, every heartbeat has its own rhythm. And that in this great universe, all rhythms coexist, braided into the music of existence. The traveling clock drifts onward, carrying its slowed seconds like pearls on a string. The earthbound clock continues its faithful count, a lullaby of ordinary hours. And between them hangs the mystery. What, then, is time, if it can shift so gently with speed? You are lying still, your breath soft, your body heavy with the quiet invitation of sleep. The world around you hums at its own slow rhythm, and yet, beneath this quietness, a deeper rhythm beats, a rhythm tied not only to your pulse, but to the fabric of reality itself. Time, the unseen current that carries you forward, is not always steady. It bends, it stretches, it yields under the invisible hand of gravity. You do not simply live within time, you are carried through a river whose flow changes with the weight of worlds. Imagine now that you are floating just above Earth, looking down at the blue curve of oceans and continents, watching clouds spread like brushstrokes of white. The planet pulls at you, not just with its gravity, but with its time. Every second that passes for you here, just above the Earth, is ever so slightly different from a second on the surface below. It is not something your heart feels or your watch betrays, but physics whispers it is so. Time on the mountain peak, where air is thin and Earth's pull weaker, moves just a fraction faster than time at the sea's edge, where the gravity is stronger. The difference is minute, invisible, impossible to sense in your day-to-day life. And yet, it is real. A clock placed high upon a skyscraper ticks more swiftly than one resting deep underground. Both are correct in their own frames of reference, but neither keeps to an absolute rhythm. You live in a universe where even time, the ruler you thought unbreakable, bends softly under the presence of mass. Think of time as fabric, and gravity as the weight that stretches it. When a planet gathers matter into itself, its gravity deepens the well beneath it, and time flows more slowly there. For you, this is not a myth but a law, one tested, measured, and confirmed by scientists who sent clocks aloft into orbit, only to find them ticking at different rates than their twins on Earth. Now, let yourself drift farther from Earth in your imagination. You sail beyond the moon, beyond the reach of satellites and human voices, until you stand near a giant, Jupiter, with its swirling storms and striped colors. Its mass towers in influence compared to Earth. You feel its presence not just in the way it would tug at your body, but in the way it bends time itself. Near Jupiter's clouds, moments slow. The seconds of your heartbeat would stretch just slightly longer than those of a friend watching from a distant spacecraft. To be near such a giant is to stand at the edge of a slower song, a deeper rhythm. And farther still, beyond Jupiter, you might wander toward a star. Stars do not simply shine, they sculpt the tempo of the cosmos around them. Near the surface of a star, time flows at a pace so heavy, so laden with gravity, that distant observers would see your seconds stretched into longer beats. If you could send a signal back, a voice calling from the star's edge, those who received it would hear it lag, delayed by the simple fact that your time and theirs do not match. But even a star pales before the deepest wells of gravity. Imagine now the edge of a black hole, where light itself bends and cannot return. Here, time does not merely slow, it nearly stops. To hover close to such a horizon is to feel eternity press into each breath. To an outside observer, you appear frozen, locked forever at the brink. But to you, the moments still pass, your thoughts still unfurl, your heart still beats its quiet rhythm. You are living within stretched seconds, immersed in the heaviest silence time can offer. This is not fantasy, not poetry alone. Astronauts who have orbited Earth have carried clocks that proved this truth. The astronauts, moving swiftly and higher above the planet, aged fractions of a second differently than those who remained on Earth. These small differences grow larger with distance, with gravity, with mass. The universe is a stage of shifting rhythms, where no clock strikes the same beat everywhere. Consider what this means for your body, for your days. Every step you take, every breath, is part of a dance with gravity's pull. You are heavier at sea level than on a mountain top, and time answers to that weight. In your lifetime, the difference is nearly nothing, yet across galaxies, across billions of years, these differences accumulate. They shape how stars evolve, how light bends, how the universe unfolds itself. Close your eyes and feel the pull of Earth beneath you. That pull is not only keeping you anchored but also gently slowing your seconds. Without it, time would slip by more quickly. You are part of this cosmic slowing, woven into the great weight of your planet. You and Earth breathe together, bound not only by matter but by the rhythm of time itself. Now imagine this truth turned inward. Think of how you measure time in your own life, not with clocks or numbers, but with memory. The heavy moments, the ones filled with loss or waiting, feel slower, stretched. The joyful ones, the fleeting sparks, feel faster, as though time itself sped up to steal them away. In this way, you mirror the cosmos. Gravity bends the outer universe, your emotions bend your inner sense of time. Both are real. Both reshape the current you drift upon. The knowledge that time bends under gravity does more than describe physics, it redefines reality. It reminds you that time is not a rigid march but a pliant thread, pulled and reshaped by the weight of what exists. You live in a universe where time is not equal everywhere, where each place carries its own tempo. And within you, too, the rhythm shifts. So as you rest here, imagine yourself lying not only on Earth but in the arms of spacetime itself. Imagine gravity as a hand pressing gently upon the clock of your life, stretching seconds in ways you cannot feel but are nonetheless true. Every star, every planet, every black hole writes its own tempo into the fabric of the cosmos. And you, small though you may feel, are part of this grand symphony. When you next gaze at the night sky, remember this: the starlight reaching you has traveled through different rivers of time. Some beams left their stars while your ancestors walked the earth, others while oceans first rose, others long before Earth even formed. Each photon carries not just distance, but the memory of slowed and stretched seconds. The night sky is not a single clock but a tapestry of times, stitched together across the weight of gravity. You float here now, between breaths, between seconds, aware of the delicate truth, that time bends. It is not uniform. It is not absolute. And as you drift in this awareness, your own seconds soften, your thoughts slow, and you feel yourself carried gently toward the next mystery. For if time can bend under gravity's pull, what happens when space itself begins to shift, when the fabric stretches not from weight but from expansion? You drift toward that question, unsettled yet calm, ready to follow where the universe carries you. You imagine two siblings, side by side in their childhood. Their laughter carries across a small field, their shadows stretching long in the setting sun. The years have not yet pressed upon them, and the air feels light with possibility. One will choose to stay, to remain rooted in the soil, and the other will lift away, borne upon a vessel that cuts through the velvet night of space. The story of their bond, stretched across time itself, becomes the story you are invited to walk into now, slowly, carefully, as though you were tracing constellations in a quiet sky. The sibling who stays becomes the keeper of memory. Their feet press firmly into the ground, season after season, as rivers shift and mountains erode grain by grain. They live in the ordinary rhythm of days, planting, harvesting, breathing the air that drifts from forests, watching generations ripple forward. They learn the slow pace of change, the patient unfolding of life that roots itself in Earth's cradle. The other sibling steps onto a vessel that hums with possibility. Their body becomes entwined with physics, with speed, with the stretching of time. As the craft accelerates close to the speed of light, clocks aboard whisper a slower rhythm than those back home. A year to the traveler might be a decade to the one who stays. It is a dance written not by choice, but by the fabric of spacetime itself. Here, the story begins to bend. For while the one who stays watches hair silver and skin wrinkle, the one among the stars drifts in a different current. Their youth stretches, preserved by motion, by relativity's invisible hand. To them, time feels ordinary, ticking gently forward. Yet when they look back, Earth spins faster, years piling upon themselves like waves breaking endlessly on a shore. You close your eyes and imagine their reunion. The one who has stayed waits in the meadow of their childhood, where wildflowers bow in the wind. Decades have painted their face, yet the love in their eyes glows steady, untouched by age. And then the traveler returns, stepping softly onto familiar soil, carrying a body still young, skin smooth, eyes bright. Two siblings, bound by love, stand together again, but one has been stretched by time, the other spared by it. This unevenness is not cruel, but tender in its strangeness. It reminds you that time is not a single thread for all, but a tapestry with folds and curves. Einstein's relativity is not only equations, but also a story, a soft weaving of experience that can separate two lives lived in parallel yet felt so differently. You lean deeper into the metaphor. The sibling who stays is like a tree, rooted and still, measuring time in rings, in patient circles of growth. The sibling who travels is like a river, swift and unanchored, carrying reflections downstream while the world at its banks shifts and matures. When the river and the tree meet again, they recognize one another, yet they have lived in different rhythms, learned different lessons. The science is gentle but profound. Time dilation is what physicists call the effect. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. To the traveler, nothing feels strange. Their heart beats steadily, their breath rises and falls as always. But compared with the sibling who stayed, years stretch apart, creating an imbalance that is both fascinating and deeply human. You imagine the siblings sitting together under the stars, one old, one young. They laugh softly, their voices mingling in the cool night air. Their bond has not weakened, even though time has shaped them differently. For love is not bound by symmetry. Love does not measure in years, but in presence. The older sibling tells stories of decades lived on Earth, of storms endured, of children and grandchildren born. The younger speaks of distant stars, of silence in the void, of seeing galaxies swirl like lanterns across an infinite black. Both stories belong to the same thread, woven into a single fabric of being. The night deepens, and you sit with them in your imagination. The meadow hums with crickets, and the air smells faintly of earth and grass. Around you, the universe stretches vast and unknowable, yet intimate in this moment of reunion. Time has revealed itself not as a strict ruler, but as a pliable ribbon, bending differently for each life. And still, love holds steady. You feel the gentleness of this truth, that we all experience time unevenly, even without rockets or stars. Some seasons of life rush by like a storm. Others linger, heavy and slow, like fog that refuses to lift. Two people, even standing side by side, may feel years differently. Yet when they turn to one another, when they share their hearts, they bridge that unevenness with tenderness. Science, here, becomes poetry. The equation of relativity is not just mathematics, it is a lullaby reminding you that time is not absolute. It bends, it curves, it stretches, just like the lives of two siblings who part and then return. And so the chapter closes softly, with their embrace beneath the stars. One old, one young, yet both touched by the same moonlight. You hear their voices melt into silence, and you are left with a gentle question lingering like a thread of starlight. If time can bend between siblings, how might it bend between worlds, between galaxies, between you and the vast unfolding of the cosmos? You are drifting upward, through the soft veil of Earth's atmosphere, until the blue fades to black and the world curves beneath you. The International Space Station glides silently through the darkness, a silver arc wrapped around the planet. Here, you feel the hush of orbit, the endless balance between falling and flying. And here, the very measure of time itself bends gently, carrying the astronauts into a rhythm slightly slower than your own. Inside the station, a day begins not with the rising sun but with a soft call from Earth. Astronauts awaken to the glow of monitors and the hum of circulating air. Through the window, the sun may already blaze, or the Earth may lie in shadow, for out here, dawn and dusk sweep past every 90 minutes. 16 sunrises, 16 sunsets, all folded into a single Earth day. Yet within this whirl of light and darkness, something subtler happens. The tick of time itself drifts differently. Einstein's theory of relativity lives quietly in this orbit. On Earth, you measure days with clocks and calendars, with the steady beat of seconds marching forward. But in orbit, racing at more than 28,000 kilometers per hour, the astronauts experience time at a slightly slower pace. Gravity's pull is weaker here, speed is greater, and both whisper into the fabric of time, tugging its threads just enough that astronauts return to Earth younger by a fraction of a second than those who stayed below. You imagine it, an astronaut floating, eyes fixed on the blue planet, heart beating at its usual rhythm, unaware of the subtle delay slipping into every cell. The difference is small, almost invisible, a few milliseconds over long months, yet it is real. Time, that most dependable companion, proves itself pliable, like clay warmed by unseen hands. The astronauts' days are filled with routine. They check systems, exercise on machines that resist the weightlessness, grow tiny plants in controlled chambers. They float through modules, tethering themselves with careful pushes, their bodies becoming instruments of balance and adaptation. Yet beneath every task, physics writes its own quiet story. Their muscles weaken slightly in microgravity, their bones lose minerals, their fluids shift toward their heads. And alongside these changes, the tempo of time itself leans in a gentler direction, stretching their lives by fractions. Imagine yourself at the station's window, watching Earth glide beneath like a living canvas. Clouds swirl over oceans, mountain ranges drift past, storms rise and dissolve. You see the thin blue atmosphere that shelters billions of lives, fragile as breath. Each orbit is a reminder of the vastness outside and the intimacy of home. In that stillness, you notice the paradox. Though astronauts see more sunrises in a day than you ever will, their clocks tick a little slower, held by relativity's invisible embrace. Relativity is not magic, though it feels like it. It is the geometry of space and time woven together. It says that the faster you move, the slower your clock runs compared to one at rest. It says that gravity itself bends time, slowing it near heavy masses. For astronauts, speed and weaker gravity tug in different directions, creating a delicate balance where time stretches just slightly. You might not feel it in your daily life, but in orbit, physics reveals itself like a poem written into the stars. The astronauts do not notice this slowing. They live by Earth's coordinated clocks, guided by mission control, their schedules anchored to universal time. Yet the universe notices. The mathematics hold steady. When they return, atomic clocks show it clearly. Time aboard the station has slipped, just a whisper behind Earth. They have carried with them an extra moment, a secret gift of physics, too small to sense, yet profound in its meaning. You pause and wonder, what does it mean to live more slowly, even by fractions of a second? To carry within you a time that others did not touch? It is a reminder that your experience of the universe is not fixed but shaped by your path, your speed, your gravity. The astronaut's story whispers that there is no single time, no universal beat. There are countless rhythms, all true, all flowing together like rivers that bend and merge yet never quite align. As you drift in this thought, you imagine the astronauts sleeping in their small cabins, zipped gently into sleeping bags that keep them from floating away. Outside their window, another dawn unfolds, the sun igniting Earth's edge in fire and gold. 16 times they witness this cycle, yet their inner clocks hum on, steady and quiet, gently behind yours. They carry the physics of time within their very being, living proof of relativity's patient truth. This knowledge does not need urgency. It does not demand wonder shouted into the void. Instead, it invites a soft reflection. Your life, too, is a dance with time. Every step you take, every place you rest, shapes the rhythm you inhabit. You are never bound to one absolute clock, for the universe itself is a field of flowing time, bending and swaying with every star, every planet, every motion. Back on Earth, when astronauts return, they often speak of the overview effect, the deep shift of perspective when one has seen the world from space. They carry a sense of unity, of fragility, of wonder that the boundaries and divisions of the planet are illusions compared to the vastness they have witnessed. Perhaps the slowing of their time is part of that gift, a quiet reminder that life is richer when it is not uniform, when difference itself reveals beauty. You breathe slowly, as though you, too, are in orbit, watching continents drift beneath your window. You imagine carrying that softened time back to Earth, cherishing the fractions of seconds as if they were poems hidden in your blood. You understand, now, that even the smallest differences carry meaning, that the universe is never rigid, always unfolding with fluid grace. And just as you settle into this thought, another question rises. If time bends here, at the fragile edge of orbit, what might it do near stars, black holes, or galaxies drifting apart? The astronaut's story is but the first note in a longer melody, one that carries you onward into deeper mysteries of time itself. You look up, and the sky feels quiet. The stars are hidden tonight, veiled by the blue-black softness of the atmosphere, yet you know there are travelers above you. Satellites, gliding endlessly in their orbits, circling like silent guardians. They are unseen companions, each one carrying a ticking heart, a clock. These clocks are not like the one on your bedside table. They are clocks that whisper in the language of relativity, where time itself does not flow the same way for everyone, everywhere. You hold your phone in your hand, its smooth glass cool against your skin. It seems so ordinary. You use it to send a message, to find your way to a cafe, to check the weather. But beneath its surface is a quiet miracle. Every moment, it is listening to those satellites. It is decoding the faint signals that travel down through the thin atmosphere, signals born in orbit where gravity is weaker and motion is faster. And to make sense of your place on Earth, it must listen carefully, correcting for the way time bends in the sky. This bending is not poetic exaggeration. It is real. Time itself, as Einstein once told the world, is not a rigid stage where events march forward in perfect rhythm. Time stretches and contracts, depending on where you stand, how fast you move, how deeply you are held in the arms of gravity. In orbit, those satellites are held less tightly than you are here, standing on the surface of the Earth. Their clocks, because of this difference, tick slightly faster than yours. Yet their speed, their ceaseless rush through space, makes those same clocks tick slightly slower. One effect pulls time forward, the other holds it back. The balance of these effects is delicate. Engineers, with their careful mathematics, have measured the difference. Without adjustment, each satellite clock would drift by tens of microseconds each day. It sounds tiny, a fraction of a blink. But when those microseconds are stretched across the calculations that tell your phone where you stand, they become kilometers of error. A wrong tick, an uncorrected beat, and your phone might place you in the wrong town, the wrong street, the wrong life. You imagine this. You imagine walking to the edge of a forest, asking your phone to show you the path, and instead it places you deep in the sea. You imagine a ship guided by coordinates that are just slightly off, and how that misstep could grow with every mile. In such a world, travel would feel uncertain, navigation unreliable. Yet we live in a world where you can find a hidden cafe tucked in a narrow street, simply because the satellites above, and the scientists below, have listened carefully to the whisper of time. You close your eyes and feel how strange, how humbling it is, that your ordinary day relies on the theory of relativity. A theory born in the early 1900s, from a young man staring out of windows, wondering what it would be like to ride on a beam of light. Einstein's thought experiments, once considered abstract and almost dreamlike, now sit quietly in the circuitry of your phone. Time dilation, once a phrase hidden in physics lectures, now guides your steps to the grocery store. The satellites above are like timekeepers in different rooms of a house, each room painted with its own gravity, its own motion. Imagine a house where the kitchen clock runs slightly faster than the living room clock, where the hallway clock ticks a little slower. If you wanted to bake bread, to set a timer, you would need to know how all those clocks align. Otherwise, your bread might burn, or remain raw. The world is like this house, filled with clocks that disagree ever so slightly. Satellites, ground stations, your heartbeat, the oscillation of atoms, all whispering time at slightly different tempos. And so, your phone becomes a translator. It listens to many voices, each satellite calling out from above, and it corrects for the distortions. It bends their time into yours, stitching together a map of where you stand. It is humbling to realize that in this stitching, you are carried by the fabric of Einstein's equations, equations that make the world coherent. You begin to notice how time dilation is not just something happening out there in space. It happens here too, all the time. In hospitals, where doctors place atomic clocks on the ground floor and the rooftop, they notice the difference. The rooftop clock, lifted ever so slightly higher, ticks faster than the one below. Gravity loosens its grip, just enough, and time relaxes. You may never feel it, but your body, your molecules, your thoughts are flowing in a river that is not quite the same as the river just above you. This idea, gentle yet profound, invites you to reflect. Time is not an unbroken, universal drumbeat. It is pliable, alive, shifting with motion and mass. The satellites above are only one example, but they reveal something intimate. You, standing here on Earth, are part of this cosmic rhythm. Your heartbeat is tied to gravity's pull, your seconds stretch and contract in ways you cannot feel. You live inside time's ocean, swimming in currents you never notice. You imagine walking outside under the night sky, lifting your eyes to where those satellites glide unseen. Each one is carrying a conversation about time. Each one is telling your phone, your map, your world where you are. And as they whisper, they reveal a truth: the ordinary is built on the extraordinary. Every direction you take, every step, every arrival depends on corrections born from relativity. Think of this the next time you follow a map on your screen. Beneath the simple blue dot is a symphony of physics. Atomic clocks beating in orbit. Equations dancing in silicon. Engineers listening to the faintest distortions in time. And you, guided home, unaware that you are tracing the path of Einstein's vision. The thought is both grounding and liberating. Grounding, because it reminds you that you are held by laws of nature that do not waver. Liberating, because it shows you that the universe is stranger, softer, more elastic than you once thought. The satellites continue their quiet arcs. Time continues its uneven flow. And you, here on Earth, are part of this dialogue, every step shaped by whispers from the sky. As you breathe, you realize the story is not finished. For if time bends and flows differently in orbit, what happens when gravity itself is pushed to extremes? What becomes of time when you leave the gentle pull of Earth and wander toward the deepest wells of gravity? You drift closer to the edge of a vast and mysterious shadow, one that is not simply absence, but the deepest well the universe knows. A black hole. It does not shine, yet everything around it bends in quiet obedience to its gravity. Even light, swift and untouchable, feels the pull. And here you are, hovering at its threshold, feeling the stillness of something so immense that time itself falters. At first, it feels like waiting. A long, delicate pause, as though the cosmos has taken in a breath and forgotten to release it. But then you begin to notice the strangeness. Far away, the stars still sparkle, carrying on with their endless rhythms, pulses, flares, quiet twinkling gestures. Yet near this edge, their flicker slows, their movement stretching out like the long echo of a bell. Every moment feels elongated, softened, wrapped in velvet silence. This is the event horizon, the border that marks a place where time loses its familiar pace. For you, standing just shy of it, the minutes still tick gently onward, as they always do. But if someone far away were watching you, they would see you slowing, moving as though trapped in a dream of glass. To them, you would appear frozen, caught in an eternal pause, never quite crossing the boundary. Time, here, is not absolute. It is a river that flows differently depending on where you stand along its winding path. You imagine yourself as a droplet of water nearing a waterfall's edge. The current grows stronger, faster, impossible to resist. But for someone watching from far downstream, the drop seems to linger forever at the lip, quivering, stretched by forces unseen. In truth, you move, but perception bends. This is how black holes reshape not only space but the very fabric of time. The stillness feels profound, but not empty. It hums with a kind of invisible tension, as though reality itself is pulled taut here. You think of the clock you once kept by your bedside, its hands sweeping gently, never faltering. That clock would stumble here. Its ticking would stretch until each second felt like a lifetime. What you consider steady and reliable is, in truth, fragile, tied to the place you occupy in the universe. Gently, you let your thoughts wander into metaphor. The event horizon becomes not just a physical threshold, but a symbol of moments in your own life where time seems to alter. You recall evenings when joy made minutes disappear, slipping like water through your hands. Or those other nights, when grief made hours stretch impossibly long, heavy as stone. The black hole reminds you, time is not fixed. It flows differently depending on how and where you meet it. Around you, light bends. Imagine a beam of starlight, straight, bold, and radiant, suddenly curving, its path warped as though drawn by invisible brushstrokes. The black hole is not a thing you see directly, but its presence is traced in this bending, this graceful arc of photons struggling to escape. They circle, hesitating, trapped in delicate spirals before finally yielding to the darkness. Light, the swiftest traveler in existence, cannot outrun what waits within. You linger at the edge, not crossing, but listening. What lies beyond remains hidden, unknowable, cut off by the very structure of space and time. And yet, the mystery does not feel hostile. It feels like standing at the edge of a vast ocean at night, knowing the waters stretch farther than you can imagine, filled with depths you may never touch. The horizon whispers not with threat, but with invitation, to wonder, to question, to feel the immensity of existence. In this place, the very concept of now begins to blur. For you, here, time continues. You could check your pulse, feel the rhythm of your breathing, and all would seem steady. But to the distant observer, you are stretched across eternity. Both truths coexist. Reality does not collapse under contradiction, it bends, allowing both perspectives to live side by side. Einstein's general relativity unfolds here like a quiet song. Mass curves space, and curved space tells matter how to move. The black hole is simply mass concentrated to an almost impossible degree. It is the melody played when spacetime folds in on itself. You are not outside the rules, but within them, a listener to the cosmic music, patient and still. And yet, you wonder, what if you did cross? What if, instead of lingering, you stepped forward, past the event horizon? From the outside, your story would freeze in place, incomplete, suspended forever. But for you, time would go on, carrying you inward. The contradiction is haunting, but also beautiful. It means the universe allows different truths to stand, depending on where you are looking from. Inward, you imagine falling. Not falling as in panic, but falling as in surrender, as in drifting into the arms of gravity that cannot be resisted. Space curves around you like the fabric of a hammock, soft and inevitable. The singularity, that dense, invisible point at the center, waits, but not in malice. It waits because all paths, once begun, converge there. You pause again, holding to the edge, not yet crossing. You realize this threshold is not only physical but also philosophical. To linger at the edge of a black hole is to confront the limits of human knowledge. We cannot peer inside. Equations falter. Certainty dissolves. And yet, the mystery is not emptiness, it is possibility. To not know is itself a kind of wonder, a reminder that the universe still holds secrets beyond our grasp. The thought makes you softer, quieter. You breathe in, as though inhaling the silence of this suspended eternity. You imagine your own life stretched out in moments, brief sparks of memory, laughter, sorrow, discovery. From one angle, they seem fleeting. From another, they are eternal, each one imprinted forever into the fabric of time. This is the gift of standing here, to sense that your moments matter, not because they last forever, but because they are woven into the universe's tapestry in ways you may never fully see. The slowing of time, the bending of light, the impossibility of escape, they are not barriers, but reminders of how fragile and precious your perspective truly is. The black hole does not speak, yet it teaches. It teaches patience, humility, and the courage to sit with mystery. It teaches that stillness is not the absence of movement, but the presence of deep attention. And so you linger, aware of every breath, every shimmer of starlight, every whisper of curiosity. You close your eyes. In the dark behind your eyelids, the black hole remains, vast, silent, eternal. You cannot know its depths, but you can feel the way it reshapes your sense of time, of presence, of what it means to be here, now. And slowly, you open them again, gazing into the event horizon, letting the stillness wrap around you like a cloak. The universe continues, endlessly vast, endlessly strange. But here, at the edge of time, you rest in the quiet truth that not everything can be rushed, not everything must be known. The stars in the distance flicker softly, carrying on their timeless conversations. You remain at the threshold, poised between knowledge and mystery, between motion and stillness. And in that balance, you find peace. Time is not only what the clock on your wall tells you. It is also the hush of your heartbeat, the flicker of your cells dividing, the faint and steady unraveling of DNA. When you close your eyes, you feel its presence inside your chest, like a river flowing through you, always onward. Yet science tells us that this river is not the same everywhere. Its current can run a little faster, or a little slower, depending on where you are. This is not imagination, but physics, the delicate law of relativity. It says, time is not fixed, but woven into space, bent by motion and gravity. Picture yourself standing on Earth. You are rooted under a sky that tugs downward with its gravity. Every moment, the planet holds you, and in its embrace your body ticks forward, cells copying themselves, proteins folding, energy pulsing in cycles. Now imagine lifting away, rising into orbit. Your body is still the same body, still humming with its quiet biological symphony. But in the high silence of space, time slips differently. Astronauts who circle Earth at tremendous speeds live this truth. Their bodies age a little slower, by fractions of a second compared to those who remain below. The difference is tiny, almost imperceptible, yet real. It is not the storybook kind of time travel, but a subtler, quieter one, a soft stretch in the thread of existence. Think of a candle flame. On Earth, it flickers in the air, pulling oxygen as it burns. In space, that flame becomes a perfect sphere, glowing in silence. Time feels like this too. The same phenomenon, shaped differently by its environment. Inside your body, clocks tick at many levels. There is the circadian rhythm, tuned to light and dark, telling your cells when to rest, when to wake. There are telomeres at the ends of your DNA strands, tiny protective caps that shorten as cells divide. They are sometimes called the shoelace tips of life, and as they shorten, the fabric of aging slowly reveals itself. In space, these processes continue, but not untouched. Astronaut cells feel the shift. Studies have shown that telomeres can lengthen in microgravity, though the effect is temporary, folding back once Earth's pull is felt again. The body whispers its response to altered time, adjusting, bending, reshaping. You can imagine your own cells like little travelers, each with its backpack of DNA, stepping along a road that stretches forward. On Earth, the road is paved with familiar signs: sunrise, sunset, gravity pressing softly downward. In orbit, the signs blur. Sunrise comes every 90 minutes. The body, like a poet searching for rhythm, listens for a new cadence. What does this mean for you? It means that aging is not a single clock, but a chorus of them, each influenced by where you stand in the universe. Your heart may beat at the same pace, but in the mathematics of relativity, the passage of time bends around speed and gravity. If you travel to a black hole's edge, time for you would move more slowly than for those far away. You would look the same, while generations could pass beyond your sight. Yet back here, on Earth's surface, your body ages with a gentle steadiness. Cells divide, proteins fold, memories shape themselves. It is as though your entire being hums with a secret rhythm, a lullaby written in molecules. You do not hear it, but you feel it in the ache of growth, in the softness of breath, in the way a scar fades slowly across your skin. The question becomes, what is aging, truly? Is it simply the ticking of years, or is it a story of cells remembering how many times they have sung their song? In this light, astronauts' slower aging is not a miracle, but a variation on a theme, a reminder that time is not absolute, that even your body dances with the universe's flexible rhythm. Close your eyes and imagine floating, weightless. Around you, the Earth spins below, a sphere of blue and white cloud. You are orbiting at impossible speed, yet you feel no wind, no motion. Your body drifts in silence. And though you cannot sense it, time itself has shifted slightly, tilting its head, giving you a fraction of a pause in your journey of years. When you return to Earth, gravity gathers you again. The clocks realign. The body resumes its tempo as if nothing had changed. But within the hidden mathematics of the cosmos, you have carried a secret. You live time differently. You carried your cells through a gentler current. This understanding is both humbling and comforting. It tells you that time is not an enemy but a landscape, a fabric that stretches and folds, shaping the story of your body. You are not locked in a rigid countdown, but walking within a living tapestry. Every heartbeat, every breath, every blink of an eye is part of that greater weaving. Think of your DNA as a long scroll, a quiet manuscript written in 4 letters. As you live, the scroll is read, copied, sometimes smudged. With each cell division, the manuscript grows shorter at its ends, its telomeres shrinking like candle wax. This is the slow story of aging. But physics reminds you, that story is not the same everywhere. Even the manuscript itself bends to the fabric of spacetime. And so, when you imagine astronauts gliding through the black expanse, you can see them not only as explorers of planets and stars, but as travelers in time, carrying their bodies a little slower, holding their years more gently. Their journey is a mirror of your own, showing you that life is flexible, that time is not rigid but pliant, that even your cells are part of the cosmos's quiet poetry. You, too, live inside this truth. Even as you lie in bed, breathing slowly, your body is measuring time in countless ways. The flick of neurons, the drift of hormones, the soft erosion of telomeres. And beneath all these, the wider universe is measuring you differently, according to where you stand, how you move, how the gravity beneath your feet curves spacetime around your being. When you realize this, your body feels both small and infinite. You are a single traveler on a planet spinning in space. Yet you are also a keeper of clocks more delicate than any machine. They tick in your cells, whisper in your DNA, glow faintly in the rhythms of your blood. And each one is part of a larger universe, bending and stretching, shaping time's quiet flow. The lesson is gentle. Time is not only something that happens to you. It is something you live inside, a river that shifts with the shape of space itself. You are both carried by it and shaping it, simply by existing. And as you rest here, listening, you may wonder, if time bends and bodies shift within it, what does that mean for memory, for the mind, for the stories we carry? Does thought itself move with the same rhythm as cells? Or does consciousness have a clock of its own, one that whispers in a language science is only beginning to hear? You breathe slowly, and in the rhythm of that breath you begin to sense the mystery of time itself. Each inhale seems to stretch, a small infinity contained in your chest, and each exhale dissolves into the space around you. Time is measured by clocks, by stars, by the steady ticking of moments, but in the quiet of this evening, you realize that time is also measured by you. It flows differently through your thoughts, through your heart, through the story you carry within. Scientists often describe time as a dimension, woven into the very fabric of space, inseparable from the universe's unfolding. Yet the way you feel time is softer, more human. A minute of waiting may feel endless, a joyful hour may vanish in a breath. Time stretches, bends, and contracts according to your experience, even though the universe's great metronome ticks evenly on. You exist within both truths at once, the external, universal measure and the intimate, personal stream. Think of how a child experiences time. Summers feel eternal, days are wide and open, and waiting even a week seems like forever. For an elder, those same days pass swiftly, almost fleeting. The clocks have not changed, but perception has. Your brain, with its networks of memory and attention, is not a passive passenger of time. It is a painter, culling the moments in shades of urgency or ease. The science of perception shows how attention lengthens time. When you focus deeply, seconds feel slow. When you drift, they dissolve quickly, like grains of sand slipping between open fingers. This is why meditation can feel like entering another current of time. You notice the details you often miss, the whisper of air against your skin, the faint hum of silence, the small stirrings of thought that come and go. Each second expands, rich and whole, a universe of sensation. Your awareness changes time's texture, stretching it gently like soft fabric. And in that stretch, you discover a truth. Time is not only what happens to you. Time is also what you feel. Physicists study relativity, the way time bends near speed and gravity. A clock placed high on a mountain runs slightly faster than one kept by the sea. A clock moving near the speed of light runs slower than one resting in calm. These are measurable truths, tested and proven by satellites and science. Yet, strangely, your life echoes this same principle. A moment heavy with grief may feel slowed, as though dragging against gravity. A moment lifted by joy may feel weightless, as though rushing ahead. Einstein's universe and your own perception are not so far apart. You are both cosmic and human, both subject to stars and to your heartbeat. The universe sets the laws, but you experience their song differently. In the great symphony of being, your notes rise and fall, stretching some beats and softening others. This is the paradox you rest in now. Time is universal, yet time is yours. Notice how memory shapes the flow. When you look back on a season of life filled with novelty, it seems long and vivid. Newness slows perception, each detail marked and remembered. But a season of routine compresses in memory, feeling short, even if it lasted months. This is why years of childhood feel vast, each day is discovery, and why later years seem to accelerate, when days mirror one another. Your brain records fewer landmarks, and so the river of memory flows swiftly. Scientists sometimes call this the reminiscence bump, the way you recall young adulthood with sharper clarity than later decades. Those years brim with firsts, first loves, first journeys, first choices of who you want to be. Each first is a marker in time's landscape. Later, the terrain smooths, and memory flows over it more quickly. Yet within this awareness is a gentle invitation, to keep seeking newness, to carve fresh shapes into time, so that the river slows again, offering you more space to breathe. But even as perception shifts, the The present moment always waits whole and unbroken. You cannot stretch it thinner than it is. Every second contains all it can hold. Your breath moves, your heart beats, your awareness lingers. When you rest inside the now, you realize that nothing is missing. Past and future may swirl at the edges, but here, in this breath, in this awareness, time is complete. This completeness is a gift. It means you need not rush to grasp or hoard moments. Each one you live is already full, already carrying its entire weight of meaning. Think of starlight. Some beams travel for millions of years to reach your eyes, yet when you look up, the light is whole in an instant. In the same way, every present moment carries the fullness of its journey to you. You need only to notice. As you sink deeper into this reflection, you begin to sense that time is not just a line, nor even just a river. It is also a mirror. In its flow, you see your own life reflected, the choices, the pauses, the patterns of joy and sorrow. Time does not pass outside of you. It passes through you, shaping and being shaped by the way you live. You are not only a traveler across it, you are also part of its fabric, woven into its quiet design. Imagine your days as threads of light. Some shine long and steady, others brief but bright. Together they weave a pattern that only you can carry. The universe may not pause, the clocks may not stop, but in the design of your time, there is a beauty uniquely yours. The stretch and bend of moments is not a flaw, it is the very artistry of being alive. And so, you are invited now to rest in this awareness. Time is vast, yes, galaxies turn, stars are born and die, and light years measure distances your body will never cross. Yet time is also intimate, measured by your breath, your steps, your quiet evenings, the way your mind lingers on a memory or a dream. It belongs to the cosmos, and it belongs to you. When you close your eyes tonight, you step into that meeting place, where universal time and personal time merge. You are both the observer of stars and the keeper of seconds. You are both infinite and immediate. The clocks will keep their pace, but within you, time can soften, slow, and open. And so you drift, carried gently on this awareness. Your life, with its bends and its stretches, is not outside the flow of time but at the very center of it. Time is not slipping away from you, it is unfolding through you, moment by moment, like the petals of a flower opening in quiet succession. Each petal whole, each moment complete. You breathe again. You rest. You feel yourself inside this mystery. And as the narration closes, you are invited to see your own life through this lens, time both universal and deeply personal, flowing differently for each journey. You rest in the thought that even as seconds stretch and bend, your experience of the present is whole and complete, and perhaps this wholeness is where the next chapter of wonder will begin.